Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us again for another edition of Talk the Talk JR. I have today Mr. John Frankman, and I'm going to let him give a brief introduction if you don't mind. Go ahead.
Sure. Hey, I'm John Frankman. I'm running for Congress for Florida's 1st Congressional District. I was a Green Beret at 7th Special Forces Group. I got in politics, or rather politics got in me when I was forced out for the vax mandate. And it was advocating for service members, veterans on the Hill, talking to different congressmen that I realized that, man, we need to do a lot better if we're going to actually fix and solve the country, fix the problems we have, turn it around. And it seems like when Republicans are in power, we just have a slower kind of demise, but we need to actually turn it around and get better fighters up there. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you notice, I always bring up something that I have on the countertop here. I change it out. So the coins up here for the 250th anniversary of America, but I also have some villains, the Riddler, which is probably my favorite villain. And then I have the Penguin over here getting chased by Batman. There's probably a reason I have villains here, because I do look at service members and especially the elites. You know, if you think back to my first ever video, it was a founding member of SEAL Team 6, and today I'm fortunate enough to have a Green Beret on the show, and that's why the villains are here, and he's behind them getting them. So that's the tie-in here for the cards, and I appreciate you tuning in. We're going to get right into it if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's introduce you to the people. So where were you born? Like, where are you from?
Yeah, I was born in Los Angeles, California, and I grew up all over the country. My parents, they split up, unfortunately, when I was 6, divorced when I was 9, and moved around and went to a bunch of different schools. So
Okay.
I switched schools about every year since 3rd grade, except for junior and senior year. I was at a boarding school, and then my mom married my stepdad, which actually provided more stability than less, if you can think about it as far as moving. So I usually think of it like a LA-DC split, but moving around a bunch, and then college in the Midwest. But this is the longest I've lived in one place is Destin, Florida, here in Florida's 1st District.
Okay. So speaking of college, you brought it up. You got right to it. When you were in high school or anything like that, did you have jobs or?
I was working so much.
Jobs?
Yeah, I was working around. I mean, I was working at Domino's. My stepdad was working with the National Guard. He was an active Guard Reserve guy. So he had me working in, I think it's Jefferson Plaza, the National Guard kind of headquarters, doing some summer contracting stuff. It was in college that I got into some fun jobs. I did some lifeguarding too, but then in college I worked at Six Flags in Los Angeles. I'd go there over the summers. I would dress up as the Green Lantern and the Flash. The first summer didn't get there quite in time, so I was doing kind of the Looney Tunes characters, wearing those costumes. But the superheroes that was a good time.
So I didn't know this, and I still put up the villains. So
right.
Green Lantern and the Flash.
Yeah, and you did DC too, which is I prefer DC over Marvel. And some people can debate me on it, but yeah, all day.
It's all preference.
I don't know. I mean, I think
the debating factor for others.
Sure.
It's all preference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty fun jobs, I guess.
Yeah.
You get to dress up and just...
Yeah, so you would go out, you'd work for whatever the shift was, and you'd be out for half hour, then back in for rest time. You'd switch out. It was always a little awkward if there was another Green Lantern you're switching out with because you look slightly different, right?
Sure.
Usually we would just try to say that, I'm Guy Gardner, or I'm Hal Jordan, or, one of the... If you're into that kind of thing, you understand what I'm talking about right now, that there were a number of different humans who were Green Lanterns in Sector, I think, 2814. But... so I digress. But that was fun, different parades, stuff like that. But yeah.
I'm going to chalk that up to a lot of interaction. People interaction. So,
right.
Honing skills early. So, back onto the college front, where did you first start?
So I started, I knew I wanted to go in the military since early freshman year of high school. Okay. And my dad looked up to him a lot. He was a police officer, so always very into service-oriented type jobs. And then my stepdad, he was a National Guard active reservist, and we were living at Fort Belvoir during 9/11. So just seeing the smoke from the towers or from the Pentagon and not knowing what's going on, all of that really cemented early on for me military service. So I was just figuring out, do I do ROTC, do I do West Point? And as I was pursuing academies, I got into the prep school. I went to West Point Prep, so I did that for a year, but it was just kind of praying about it and visiting. I decided, I'm just going to do ROTC, and found a great ROTC program. I went to Wheaton College in Illinois, which is where my mom went. Studied chemical physics there, and got commissioned in the Army as a second lieutenant.
Okay. All right. So just What was for those of you watching and for myself? What was your commission in? What field background?
Right. So with the Army, you have different branches within the Army that you can commission in. And when I joined ROTC, I was thinking I'm just going to go combat arms, going to do something super hua, super, elite or whatever, or
All
just
in.
all in. But while in college, I had converted to Catholicism at 15. So I've always been a Christian. Always, my relationship with Jesus Christ has always been the most important part of who I am, and don't remember a day of not really believing him or in him or praying to him. But at 15, I became Catholic, and so I was thinking about the priesthood a little bit since then. There was an experience in a Catholic high school where the priest was talking, said he sat where we sat, so maybe one day one of us would be a priest like him. That kind of planted a seed. So actually during college, I was doing a lot of prayer and discernment, thinking perhaps God was calling me to this. So after commissioning in the Army, I went into seminary for the chaplain candidate program. I still put my top choices in case that didn't work out. So I put infantry, armor, and then ordnance. And I put ordnance as kind of like a backup that I would get that I could then try to go into explosive ordnance disposal with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we kind of bounced right there. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna pause your
Sure.
your EOD performance or your seminary and moving on to that way. Going through your ROTC component in college and going into the Army, there's got to be something maybe even funny or character building or that lasts with you. Is there anything that you could recall?
Yeah.
Like story-wise?
I mean,
that
there
you're
was
willing to share?
Sure, there was a teacher. He was absolutely hilarious, but he was just not that great. Wasn't paying attention. And I remember one time, my friend and I were gonna trick him into thinking I spoke Spanish fluently, and we were I think it was funny. One, we were making up different missions that we were going to go on, or things we were going to plan, and I think half the class they were deploying to Djibouti, and half the class was 6th Battalion, 9th Company, or something like that. Just ridiculous things. But in this class, the professor's just so kind of clueless that my buddy was given a presentation. He's like, "Is anyone here fluent in Spanish? We planned this ahead of time." So I raised my hand, and he's like, "Well, if you're fluent, then you would know how to say that the exercises here are difficult, but not so much that it's draining." And he gave me, how you say it. So I'm reading it off, and the professor's not paying any attention. He thinks I'm fluent. Where I had taken some Spanish, and I am fluent now. My wife is from Colombia, better in Spain. But it was just funny to kind of, and the professor would reference this later on, during the year.
Sure.
We have some fluent speakers like John, where and I mean, I took a year in middle school, high school, but that was a funny thing to kind of trick him on. But
keep going with it.
Yeah, that was good though. But anyway, I loved ROTC, loved the guys. I mean, that's the best part of the military, right? Is the service members and veterans. So really a special place in my heart, and another reason I love the district.
And camaraderie.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Unspoken.
Oh yeah, you go through hardships and challenges together. But yeah.
So what do you think? You said you knew at an early age. What do you think led you to the armed forces? That you knew that you were going to probably serve.
I mean, it's funny looking back at Halloween costumes, my mom having pictures of them. Before I ever can remember it, I had 100, 101, 101st Airborne, uniform on for some Halloween thing. But I've always been very idealistic. And I've always thought of how do I use the gifts that God gave me for the greatest good, to serve the greatest good? How do I glorify Him in the best way? And I was lining up, what my desires were, what my gifts were, and I thought, okay, there's some intellectual gifts, there's leadership gifts, there's love of country, there's physical fitness capabilities. So how do I use these and make just a huge difference? And just the military seemed like the obvious one. And anyone who was old enough to remember what happened in 9/11 too, I mean, that's going to drive somebody to really, love their country, want to serve it, and protect it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just the overall sense of service, I guess, maybe.
Yeah,
to
a huge extent, right?
Yeah.
And just wanting to serve in some way, shape, or form, something that's bigger than you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So when you said you joined the seminary and wanted to study the Catholicism, what did you finally land on as a MOS or your job specialty?
Right. So, I mean, I went to the seminary as a chaplain candidate, and after doing the 4 years of seminary formation, where it's a 6-year thing if you're going to get ordained a priest,
Right.
I let the chaplain candidate program know, hey, I'm not going to get ordained. I had a 4-year ROTC obligation, active duty obligation from them paying for my college. So I ended up finding out on Easter Monday after deciding I'm going to leave seminary that I'm going infantry. So I got active duty infantry. So I started out as an infantry officer. Yep.
How did you like that?
It was great. Love the guys, a lot of fun. I mean, the guys all knew I came from seminary, so they gave me the nickname the Machine Gun Preacher.
Oh.
And that movie had come out not too long ago, which is Gerard Butler definitely recommended, and maybe we need a little bit of that in Africa right now. I don't know. I think so. Yeah, a bunch of Muslims killing Christians. Let's go after it. But yeah, it was just a good time hanging out with the guys. You're living out in the field during the week. Really challenging yourself, and that's an amazing thing about military schools, especially Ranger School, where you just learn where your limits are, that they're so much further than you ever thought they were possible in SFAS too.
Yeah, I think that's true, always true. We will definitely quit before we definitely should not.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
easy
you can
route
keep
out,
pushing,
right? Yes.
right, yeah, in so many areas of life, yeah.
That's right, all the way around. So fast forward, how long did it take you to? Now I'm gonna get to this extremeness now, to where we're fighting villains.
Right.
There's a reason for that. So not only does it take less than 1% of the population to even say, "Hey, I'll serve." I don't even know what the percentage is of that less than 1% to say, "Hey, I'm completely nuts and I want to be extreme about it." And this is a special service inside the service and Green Beret. So what made you want to put on the cape and become the Batman?
Yeah. I mean,
it's part adrenaline junkie, part like, hey, I'm really extreme. It's gotta be.
I don't know. I mean, I went into infantry school thinking, let's just do this, and it's also maybe not knowing what I was capable of. I was just hoping, let's just pass IBOLC, let's just pass Ranger School.
Sure.
And I had come back from seminary for 4 years, and also another not knowing your limitations. I was 27, starting active duty, and I thought, man, I was so much more in shape when I was younger. That. I mean, those are just stupid excuses. You're 27, you're still young, you can still get it done.
Right.
You know, I'm 37, 38. You know, later this week, but yeah. So I think going into IBOLC, you know, there were like 3 people in my platoon who maxed the PT test. I was one of them. Like, that's really odd. And then during Ranger School, there were a lot of Green Berets who were going through. There were a lot of Ranger Battalion guys who were going through. And for folks who, let me break it down a little bit. You have Special Operation Command. Within Special Operation Command, every branch in the military has their own Special Operation units. So for Navy, it's Navy Special Warfare, which is Navy SEALs. In the Army, you have Ranger Regiment, which is an elite infantry unit. You have Special Forces Green Berets. So if anyone says Special Forces, it only means Green Berets. If you're referring to any other Special Operations unit, you say Special Operators, Special Operations. So there were Ranger Regiment, which is a type of Special Operations within the Army. There were Special Forces Green Berets, which is a type of Special Operations in the Army. And I was really drawn to the Special Forces Green Berets there. There's a good friend of mine who went through, I'll still stay in touch with him, and his wife actually ended up buying a house from his wife later on. And, you know, then it was funny because he was one of my instructors at Small Unit Tactics. You know, all right, favoritism, I don't know. I still got it through.
Sure.
But yeah, I love the Green Beret mission. They are, another nickname for them is missionaries with a rifle. Their motto is De Oppressa Liber, which means to free the oppressed. Their mission is unconventional warfare and foreign and internal defense. So they are going into other countries and they're overthrowing oppressive governments. They are working with guerrilla forces to do so, and they're trying to make the world a better place for those countries. And the biggest thing is they work by, with, and through a partner force. All of the special forces regiments, the groups, are geographically based. They learn language, they know the culture. I learned Spanish. I was sent here to 7th Special Forces Group, which brought me into the district. And absolutely just love the mission and just love the guys.
Okay. And you said you scored one of 3 in the group that scored a perfect on the PT test?
There were only 3 guys who, out of like the 40 or 50 that were in my infantry my IBLC, Infantry Basic Officer Leadership Course platoon, only 3 of us maxed out.
And you maxed.
I did, and I'm like, I'm coming from 4 years of seminary.
At 27.
Well, yeah, and I don't think I don't think the age thing.
You say that, but those of us out there, they do know about the age and how that works in the military, and you're still on your numbers are still higher in that age bracket,
right?
But you're still at the upper end of that age bracket to get those higher numbers.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? What I'm saying? Like,
yeah. So like, let's say that
your
the
age hasn't dropped.
Yeah, you don't have to do. You were still at like 75 push-ups, not 65.
That's
or
right.
Whatever it is.
That's right.
Your run time. Yeah, it's an interesting thing in the Army. Yeah.
So I guess where I'm going with that is I applaud you for that.
Oh,
and that's where you found out and said, I'm going to keep pushing. And you're like, listen.
Oh, I mean, that was just an example of where I thought I wasn't going to do well on, or I just thought I was going to be average going through infantry officer course. I thought we're going to have some studs in here, and there were amazing studs, but then you have other guys who like can't climb the 6-foot wall, and you're like, what are we doing here? But you know, I did that. I was one of the honor grads, or just, I don't even know, maybe top 20%. I'm not even sure what it is you get through IBLC. And, you know, Ranger School was a kick in the ass. I mean, I recycled all the time. You know, that was just a test of perseverance, not like oh, you did great here. And like, nope, I barely made it, and I made it. But hey, no one's asking. I got the tab, and I learned more. I learned more from the mistakes I made and the recycles and those extra days of patrolling than I would have if I had gotten just straight through. So a lot of times those setbacks are just setting you up for greater success later.
Lessons.
Those lessons, yeah.
Lessons, not necessarily failures.
No, not at all. Yeah.
That's how I look at them.
It's just, how do you readjust and get back up and recalibrate and get back into it?
Yeah. So all of this and all of that getting to know who made John Frankman today.
Mm-hmm.
Why? The ultimate question for me, why politics? Because everybody looks at it as like, oh, I'd never do that. Why politics? I think I have an idea, but why?
I mean, I think it's just easiest to go through the course of events that brought me here. Now, I've always followed politics, you know, loosely, or maybe more than your average, you know, student or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, you vote regularly. I mean, you have no idea about the local people, but you listen to some news. And you get kind of fired up every now and then during the general elections. But in the Army, you have the seminary formation happening where you're very much trying to fight for the salvation of souls and changing the culture, and you're seeing cultural problems, you're looking at the social issues. You have a great sense of how do you serve God and what's right, what's wrong, and injustice deeply bothers me. So how do you fight those injustices and try to rectify those wrongs? And you take that in the military, you get that experience, but it was being at 7th Special Forces Group under the Biden administration and seeing things that were going on. One, the transgender policy was nuts. We had a transgender Major Green Beret who was serving there, and that's just a crazy thing. But then going through the COVID shot mandate, I, as a team leader, told my team that I would neither punish or reward them based on whether they get the shot. I personally didn't want to get it, at least until it was mandatory. And we might get some crap for it, and we did. And through that, and experiencing the pressure, the coercion, I don't want to bore anybody. I've talked about it on a number of other podcasts and things like that. But just ultimately having the team being coerced, having deployments taken from us before the mandate came out because of policy that was made only to punish those who were not vaccinated before ever having a mandate, then having put in unwanted training scenarios, being ordered to wear red wristbands and red tape to indicate your vaccination status during a training exercise. You know, World War II, anybody? Hello. And losing out on deployments, team time. I was ironically supposed to teach ethics at West Point, but was not allowed to do that. So my career was dead-ended. It was irreparably harmed to where even if I had stayed in, I couldn't be as successful. My trajectory was, so I got out, I prayed about it, I wrote an op-ed about the situation of what happened, that got some traction, that got me on the news, doing podcasts, other interviews, writing other op-eds, and ultimately got me going to DC, talking to different congressmen, different staffers. And while I was there, I just had this sense that, man, we need better fighters up here if we're ever gonna save our country and turn it around. And there was kind of this zeal and desire placed in me. And I was really praying to God, like, what do you want me to do at this point? I've just got out of the Army. I spent 4 years in seminary. Maybe you want me to go back and to be a priest. And I actually did an 8-day silent retreat after leaving the Army, kind of asking him, what is your will for me, God? And seeing the timing of doing the retreat when the op-ed was published was providential enough for God to tell me, one, I need you to advocate for service members and veterans, and through that path discovering, it's not priesthood that he's calling me to, it's more politics. And there's a place for politics in Christianity, and Christians need to be involved. We're supposed to be the light of the world, the salt of the earth, and Jesus talks about the two swords, and the two swords he's talking about is the spiritual power and the temporal power, and talks about how you are supposed to respect the rulers above you, and there's just this natural law that Paul talks about in Romans, where we can know what's good. You don't have to just be legislating things directly from Scripture. They'll line up with Scripture, but if you're just going off of the natural law, which is philosophy, sciences, and just what makes common sense, just like common ethical things that are agreed upon if you are being honest with yourself, such as marriage between a man and woman, life starting at conception, not overly taxing people as theft, then you're going to have a better society. And one example I give is you don't put sand in the gas tank of a car and expect the car to drive well. You're going against reality of how God made it. So wanting to help our country get back to reality of how God made it in order to put it in a better direction, especially surrounding with the vax mandate, what happened to service members. And so when Matt Gaetz initially, so providential, everything that happened. I got out, I did these interviews. Matt Gaetz invited me to the State of the Union. So I got to go with him in 2024 up to DC, and we got to do a bunch of podcasts. So I think like Breitbart did something. We were on with Steve Bannon. I went on his show, still one of my favorite podcasts, on his Firebrand podcast. Just an amazing experience. Met a lot of awesome people, and then continuing that, getting involved with Veterans for Trump. Then meeting Donald Trump in October of 2024, I got to meet him and ask him, what are you going to do to repair the damage that was done by the Biden administration and hold leaders accountable? All of this all lining up, and then when Matt was picked up for Attorney General, I jumped in and ran for Congress. Now that was short-lived given Trump's endorsement of Petronas about 10 days later,
Right.
Which it's like, man, what are you going to do? There's like 10, 15 candidates to race. You want to respect Trump. You hope that there's some good that's going to come, but I've just been so disappointed in everything Congress has done over this last year, or not done is probably the better answer. They have the House, the Senate, the presidency, but they can't get anything done. And Petronas is not the right guy for this district, and that's why I'm running again.
Okay. I guess, where do you see,
Yeah.
where do you see, I guess, your future for the district? The outline.
So this district is, let's talk about the district. It's the furthest northwest in Florida. We have more veterans here than any other district in the country. We're the most veteran densely populated district in the country. We have 5 major military bases, and I was assigned to one of them. I was at 7th Group, which is part of Eglin Air Force Base. We have Hurlburt Field, which is home of U.S. Air Force Special Operation Command. You have NES Pensacola, which is where all Navy Marine pilots come through. Whiting Field, which is another training station. Corey Station. So this is a military district of military districts, a veteran district of veteran districts. It's also the most conservative in the state of Florida. It is so red, like so red. There's no, you want to squeeze every ounce of red out of it as possible. And then it's just very good Christian values, very conservative people. You have the beach, it's amazing. So it's just such a great district that I think taking care of military and veterans is the first thing that you really need to be pushing for here.
Okay.
And what does that look like? That looks like fighting for the VA hospital, which you can do like an interagency swap. You can give the Navy hospital to the VA. You can give the VA clinic to the Navy. That can be done in Pensacola for cheaper because I know everybody's worried about the money. But we haven't had a veteran represent the area, and with Petronas, he's not a veteran, and the thing is, it's not a priority for him. And why can I say that? It doesn't matter how many billboards he puts out throughout the district. he didn't have a veteran on his staff until I challenged him in the primary almost a year after he was in office. And you're not going to understand what's going on. Like as an 18 Alpha, as a Special Forces officer, I had weapons sergeants, I had communication sergeants, I had a team sergeant, intelligence sergeants. I know I'm not the expert in everything. I rely on the expertise of others to help my blind spots. But if you don't even know that your blind spot is so big on something that's so essential to the district, I just don't think you're the right person for this district. So things that I could do is hiring staffers, and there's people I have in mind who you can hire on your staff within the district to help with district work. Mm-hmm. There have been a number of veterans who've gone to him asking for help with the VA, haven't gotten the help, and instead they get help from someone who used to work for Matt Gaetz, who's helping me with my campaign, who that's all he did in his office. Mm-hmm. And that guy was willing to work for Petronas if he had him. So I don't like our service members not getting the help that they need. You need to have staffers who are liaising with the bases to make sure that they get what they need on the National Defense Authorization Act. Mm-hmm. You need to be protecting the Eastern Gulf testing range. There's just all these things that have to happen. We have such high veteran suicide too that we need to be looking for experience. We need to be opening up to Ibogaine, to hyperbaric chambers, things of that nature. I think within the VA, you get people to,
It's interesting you brought up Ibogaine. That's wow.
Well, I mean,
I would not imagine that would have been brought up here today. That you would have brought that up.
It was on your bingo card.
It never would have been on my bingo card for today.
Oh yeah.
But I was actually looking into that over, I don't know, 2 years ago. But it didn't start with Ibogaine.
Sure.
That's not what I started looking
at.
But anyway,
I don't know. I don't know what the gateway is to those things, or what's the better or whatever. But just an example of there's certain drugs, treatments that I know a number of special operators who have done it, and they said, John, I did this, and it was fantastic. It's changed my life.
Yeah.
I'm not stressed anymore. I don't have problems with this. I don't look at porn anymore. I'm like, whoa. It really resets.
There's new pathways.
Right. So. I mean, I have so much problems with pharma, and we can get to that too.
Sure. I don't know. I just can't believe that came up, and because I'm a supporter of.
Yeah.
I'm not a supporter of the largest drug dealers in the world, right? But I am a supporter of let's find the fix, even if it has to be redone 45, 90 days. It's not an everyday comeback. The money's in the comeback, but there's no comeback if it's every 45 to 90 days.
Well, I mean, I don't know how often, and we'll look into it, but like, as far as experimental treatments, as far as drugs, there needs to be, you need complete medical freedom. You cannot be forced to take anything against your will whatsoever. Maybe there's something with prisoners. I mean, I don't know. We can talk about that. But as long as you have just full informed consent, where you know the pros, you know the cons, you even know the limits of what's known about the thing, and then you can make that choice. And if it helps one veteran or a number of veterans with regards to suicide, we have lost more veterans outside of Afghanistan and Iraq during that time. We've had, I think it's about 17 a day, and some people say the statistics higher that kill themselves. That's insane. It killed me. I got Memorial Day. I didn't even realize it, but I looked on Instagram, and there was somebody I went through the Q course with that committed suicide. I didn't even know it. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So there just needs to be help for military and veterans, and I've been advocating for veterans for far longer than I've ever been running for office. I started doing that immediately in 2023 when I got out. I didn't run until, I don't know, we had like the opening in late 24 or whatever, but you just need somebody who either is a veteran or understands the issues well and can tap into that to prioritize it.
So this is, again, just so everyone's aware, this is... on this podcast, I need to make sure that everybody knows it's opinion-based piece, and my statements are mine, and my guests are theirs. So if I'm say something, it has no bearing on Mr. Frankman today. I'm hearing that you're going to put veterans first, and what that means for this district is it won't be like and this is me again, but it won't be a video conference call about what's going on in the VA.
No,
that's just me. That's my statement.
It's not going to be a letter. It's not going to be a letter a year after you've been in office when it's not going to be saying, hey, VA secretary, I want you to do a study to see if we need a VA hospital here. And this is me saving face because I haven't done any crap about it for so far. No, it's going to be me actually working with the VA, getting my hands dirty in the NDAA process and in the appropriations processes to make sure that the money comes here because it's a priority. And I'm not going to wait and start doing it until I'm being challenged by someone else in a primary.
That's so. Yeah, and I said that on purpose for my end because there's probably a reason about veterans that I care.
Right.
You know, somebody that runs on that cloak of a veteran cloak and then does nothing.
Yes.
Until election time
Look,
and says, "Oh, look what I did."
No, and it's just like I've been doing things. There's a documentary coming out, not related to my campaign, but Duty to Disobey. It's showing on June 30th. It's with Children's Health Defense, and that's just a group of us who've been advocating for service members affected by the shot mandate.
What's that again?
It's called Duty to Disobey, and you can go to dutytodisobeyfilms.com to buy tickets. There's a showing in Pensacola, a showing in Destin. I mean, since we're on the topic, I'll discuss the...
What date is that?
June 30th.
June 30th.
Yep, June 30th, yes. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think it's worth discussing since we're talking about the vax mandates. That's what got me into politics. A lot of people, when I tell them, hey, I was forced out because of the vax mandate, they say, hey, you can go back in now. All is well, all is good, no problem, no loss, whatever. That's not the case. There were 8,600 that were kicked out, and there were maybe 80 or 90,000 who, quote unquote, voluntarily separated. Why did they say voluntarily separated? They do because they didn't wait for the person to get kicked out. So that's people whose careers were destroyed. They left on their own volition rather than wait till they got kicked out and potentially got a general discharge, which is what the majority of people who were kicked out did get. And now you have about this 100,000 group of people who were either voluntarily, involuntarily, whatever, forced out of the military. You only have about 150 of them who've come back on active duty. Why is that? That's because the process to come back in is very bureaucratic. The back pay, this is how the back pay works. If you're part of the 80 or 90,000 who is deemed voluntarily separated, you're not entitled to any back pay. You're just not. You could have been like, I'm just gonna, like me, I put my my paperwork in to leave because I didn't want to wait for my exemption to get denied. I'm not in, then because of that category, not entitled to it based on the category. The 8,600 who are entitled for back pay, their back pay is subtracted from everything they made as a civilian from the day they got kicked out to the day they come back in. So if you were entitled to $300,000 and you made $200K, you're only getting $100K. That's how they calculate it. And the most important thing is there's been no accountability. So that's why watch Duty to Disobey to understand what happened in the military. But if you're in an abusive relationship, you don't go back to an abusive relationship unless the abuser is punished, there's rectification. But people who are serving at the highest levels in the Pentagon right now were some of the biggest COVID tyrants, right? So there's nothing that says that when a Democrat comes in as president next time and we have another pandemic or whatever, that they're not going to do this to us again. So you have this large cohort, and the military morally is suffering from this. You have the most moral people who chose to leave, the order was unlawful, and it was unlawful because there was no FDA-approved drug available. They said that Comirnaty was FDA approved, it was. Pfizer is the one that was still available. So if you're only offering Pfizer, you're not legally mandating people to take a drug. And then you're not respecting the process of religious exemptions, medical exemptions, and other things of that nature. So there's no one in Congress talking about this, not a congressman. This is the most military veteran densely populated district in the country. I will fight for the veteran. I will fight for the service member. They only have so much recourse within their chain of command. You can only have generals who push down so hard, and I want to berate these generals like in these hearings to make sure that our service members are taken care of. And I want to get signs out in the different bases saying for the boys. I just want to be for the boys, want to take care of them. So I think it's worth touching on that issue a little bit, not because that's the most pressing thing we have, but that's an example of something that no one else is talking about. And accountability for COVID, it might die with this election because I don't see anyone else really talking about it.
All right. That's veterans and being their voice is huge.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people use that card,
right,
but they don't follow through.
Yeah.
And that's that's sad. So, okay, we got the landscape on the veterans and the accountability for Congress and for that. So what else are we going to see that could shape out a little different for District 1?
I think that the biggest crisis or threat we have right now is affordability, which is based on the federal deficit. So that federal deficit, we are $39 trillion in debt. That means that every man, woman, and child within the U.S., if we're going to pay off the federal debt, would have to pay over like $114,000 per person. every taxpayer would have to pay, because not everybody pays taxes, would have to pay over $350,000 per taxpayer. That's unsustainable. And why do we have inflation right now? How do we solve the issue with inflation, with affordability? I mean, it's as simple as if you have $10 and 10 apples, every apple is worth $1. If you have $20 and 10 apples, every apple is worth $2. We are watering down our currency. We all see it. Houses are more expensive, cars, food. It's not because that product has changed at all, and it's not because it's worth more. It's because our dollar is worth less, and that could ultimately be what destroys us. We're paying over $1 trillion on the debt every year in interest. It's just, and people say it's not sustainable. Okay, whatever, big problem. What am I going to do about it? No, this could collapse our country, folks. This could result in the end of America. So we need to end the Federal Reserve. We need to get back to some kind of a gold standard, whatever. Certainly not any kind of digital banking currency that can, restrict our freedoms. But to get back to fiscal sanity by not giving any money to foreign nations while we are in this emergency status right now, by only voting on single subject spending bills and not any large continuing resolutions, omnibus packages, etc., by really adhering to the 10th Amendment that says that if the Constitution doesn't say this, if the Constitution doesn't allocate this power to the federal government, it should be at the state and the local level. And as a Catholic, one of the things I learned is about subsidiarity. It's the principle that says that you do everything that you can at the lowest level possible. If I have a problem and I can take care of it, I take care of it. If it's a family problem, my family takes care of it. If it's something in the town takes care of it. Because they understand the problem more than some bureaucrat in DC does. And $1 is going to go further in my own pocket than it's going to go further in the town, which is going to go further than it does in the county or the state and the federal government. And we have so much waste, fraud, and abuse because we're doing it at such a high level. We need to solve these problems at lower levels.
Yes, agreed. I agree with you on the lower level part. So I will say this: you brought up the Federal Reserve. I don't think I'm not aware now, but I think we first met at a 109-year-old's birthday. And
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's the oldest person that I physically met.
I know. It was something
so,
to see. Yeah.
So at this moment, I truly don't think there's anyone still alive. But
1917. So
I would say 1913 is when the Federal Reserve started.
yeah.
So 1913 Federal Reserve started, but prior to that, income tax wasn't a thing, and that's what
Right.
that's what sparked
Yeah.
it. So then you look at the First World War, 1914.
Yeah.
It was the first privately
is there
funded
a
war, right? So
coincidence? I
so
don't know.
so
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm not
Yeah.
going that route. I'm saying, but you look at all this stuff and the taxation, and we turned Boston Harbor into a huge tea bag because of 3 pence.
Right. Yeah.
Well, there's 100 pence in a pound. So you're really talking 3%. If you sit down and look at Florida with no state income tax, and you look at the 5-6 major taxes that you're paying, those percentages add up pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And just here in Escambia County, I did it, and we're a little over 40%.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Pensacola Bay should be a large
Right.
tea bag.
Right. Yeah.
It's not
yeah.
gonna
No.
be.
If
But
we were
I guess
pounders,
I'm
yeah.
just going off of that. What
Sure,
you're
sure.
talking about with the reserve, but
Yeah.
it's crazy that really 40% of every dollar.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
average,
if the
depending
federal,
on your tax bracket.
if the government were a subscription service, if the government were HBO or Netflix or Amazon
Cancel.
Prime with everything, we would be canceling it. We'd be, redefining the terms of the contract and looking at what am I getting out of paying 40% of my paycheck to you? What is it I'm getting out? Now, if you're getting a free handout, sure, you're happy, whatever. And that's how a large portion of the Democrat base, gets reelected, right, by the handouts or whatever. But it just needs to be renegotiated. And I want to go to D.C. I please God, if it's His will, if it's good for my soul, if it glorifies Him, I'd like to get elected. When I leave office, well, I hope there's term limits. And I also hope that I have less power leaving than when I came in. I want to just shrink the size of the federal government, shrink its power and capabilities. Not just of the executive branch, but just of the federal government in general. When our country was being founded, the main reason that we had the federal government is to negotiate those international trade deals as kind of like a united front, but also to defend us. Really just kind of militaries and the trade stuff and naming post offices. So, let's just, I got some creative names, folks, but yeah, let's get back to that.
Okay. So, question I have, I'm independent. by nature, I don't say by nature, but by learned, I'm conservative.
Sure.
So let's change. If you change words, I'm conservative.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is I'm going to pay my bills before I go party.
Yeah.
Or vacation. I'm
Yeah,
going to feed my family before I.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Indulge in pleasures. So I guess where I'm going with that is, I'm pro-life.
Yeah.
I'm religious. So I am conservative. Now, I don't align with parties, but I do want to ask this question because I am involved. During the last election, Escambia County
Right.
went, you said just heavy red, but it went blue.
It did.
So what are you looking at with that?
So the first time Escambia County has gone blue in a congressional election was since 1992. And what is the difference that we've had since 1992 till that election in 2025?
Mm-hmm.
It was Jimmy Patronis. And I think that Escambia County went blue because Jimmy Patronis, even though he was selected by the establishment to run here, not from the district, I think it's because he's a weak candidate and did not campaign. So I think that's the reason it went blue. I think that's the reason why Gabe Alamont is running again, and why, I don't know if you've seen her commercial, but it's absolutely hilarious. It's like, welcome to Florida's first congressional district, Jimmy Patronis. I'm going to give you a tour since you don't actually live here. I thought it was comical, but I mean, there certainly is some trends of people coming here, but we just need good candidates to go and to run. You're always going to have some difficulties in big cities, but that's the biggest difference. Matt Gaetz never had that issue. Folks who came before him didn't. Up until 1992. So I think that's the biggest thing. Now, it's going to be difficult during a midterm year. I know that all projections say we're probably going to lose the House, or Republicans will, if you look at it in those terms. So I would actually consider kind of supporting me instead of Patronis, just for the sake of not risking losing Florida's first congressional district historically to a Democrat.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to just recap what Mr. Frankman's been going over here. Candidate Frankman's saying is he lives here. He's going to go support vets because he's been doing it before day one. He's been doing it even in the service, he was still supporting those that came before him. And he's gonna look at debt because there's no way that we can continue to live outside our means. If we, as citizens, have to live within our means, this is what I heard. This is my own words, but then the government that lives off of its citizens needs to do the same. Is that pretty?
Oh yeah.
I know I use my own words, but
no,
is that
I
what
think
you're
that's
saying?
a great way. Yeah,
Okay.
I might steal this.
And then term limits. You're interested in term limits?
Yes. So I signed the term limit pledge.
Okay.
So you can see that online, and they posted it. But what our federal government did, our founding fathers did when they founded this country, is they had different checks and balances in power. And the checks and balances back then looked different than what it does now. Right now, it looks like a lot of special interest groups, large donors, and bureaucrats, deep state bureaucrats that are very much controlling the agenda of the direction of where the United States of America is going. And Matt Gaetz, who I very much respect, I'm very grateful for everything he's done for me. Like I said, with the State of the Union, he's had me on his show about a dozen times since he got out of office. But he was pushing for term limits. He was pushing to stop special interest group money going to politicians, and he was also pushing for no insider trading. And these are some reforms that we need. That they're not going to fix everything, but they are necessary steps we have to limit just having people get to Congress, get corrupted, stay there forever, and just get addicted to the power. Our founding fathers understood that human nature has a weakness to it. Certainly they said that our country cannot survive unless it's with a moral and religious people, which, our biggest, if you have one solution, it's return to God. I will always advocate for that, and I say fighter for faith and freedom. That's kind of my motto and what I'm going based on. But we certainly need new checks and balances in power.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on the term limits.
Yeah.
I do. I don't think there should be a career in politics. I think go in. It's just like coaching Little League. Go in, coach your kid, get ages out, move on. I honestly believe that. There shouldn't be a career because you're setting yourself up for the bribes, for the taste. Right. And then you get comfortable.
And for our form of government, that certainly is the way it should be. That's how our founding fathers set it up.
Sure.
I'm not saying everywhere needs to be a republic, but for us, yeah.
For our experiment, it seemed to
Right.
work early on.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else besides the term limits? I'm check mark. I'm with you.
Okay. Some of the other priorities I have, there's honestly, it's kind of like the Nike "Just Do It." We look at Congress, and they haven't done just hardly anything. We're now in a midterm year, and they couldn't even get the SAVE Act passed. If they were actually serious about the SAVE Act, they would have passed it in 2025 before Trump ever took office. They would have said, "Hey, we need IDs to vote. We need to clean up the voter rolls. We need same-day voting. No mail-in ballots unless you have some special condition or you're military." Boom, that's what it is. Signature verification, all those different checks. But they didn't. They waited until a midterm election year when they didn't have the same power, when there were political dynamics where people who aren't getting reelected or weren't supported by Trump, no longer want to comply because they're bitter, proud, petty old people. I really like Jocko Willink's book, it's No Excuse Leadership. Like, there's just no excuse. You have to take that personal ownership. And as a member of Congress, you can't just be saying, "Oh, it's the Democrats." Like, what am I doing personally in my capacity to control and to make changes? So just getting that legislation ahead of time. And some other legislation and initiatives that I'd be interested in is protecting our civil liberties to a great extent. We saw the biggest infringement on our personal liberties in our lifetime during COVID. We were just not looking like the United States of America whatsoever. You had to get the shot to work, sometimes to eat in restaurants, or else you'd have to mask up. There were all these restrictions that no one ever voted on to take that were placed on us. And we saw thousands of nurses losing their job, military. We saw grandma being locked in a retirement home, having to die alone. We witnessed Big Pharma basically killing people because it was more profitable to push the COVID shot and remdesivir than to allow for the knowledge of other treatments that would work ahead of time. So what does that look like? I will fight for a medical freedom amendment, period, no questions asked. I will be that thorn in the side, be that Thomas Massey who's pushing for a discharge petition. Just get it on the vote, just push it and see who my allies are, and if they're not going to sign on, whatever. This district is the reddest in the state. We had Matt Gaetz here. He wasn't worried about working for McCarthy or Mike Johnson. He was worried about pushing the party further to the right, inspiring the next generation of voters. And that's what we need here. We don't need somebody who's just going to try to, "Oh, hey, what's the party line? What am I supposed to say and do?" And I'm not saying that just as a side. Let me give you evidence for it. Petronas voted to cover up sexual misconduct reports against members of Congress. There's a slush fund in Congress that goes to pay off victims, and the vote was to put the reports filed against members of Congress, hide it back at the ethics committee. And I don't know how we had hundreds voting against releasing it, only a small sliver. And this isn't an isolated incident. During an Okaloosa Republican Executive Committee meeting, Petronas was asked about the Epstein files and said he wanted to move on past the Epstein files, that there's no more work to be done on those documents. And when asked about accountability, he said they're just out there for the whole world to see. It's beyond statute of limitations. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this is just what party leadership is pushing. The Union Party is pushing. But it certainly is not, you take a poll, you ask the people of Northwest Florida, Florida's 1st Congressional District. I'll say Florida's 1st Congressional District because I think that just includes the part, from 3031 on, from Freeport on, not including Panama City Bay, which is more or less likely where he's spending more of his time at home. But this area would want accountability. If someone assaulted a child, they would want that person to go to jail to be punished for it. If a congressman were to have sexually abused someone, they would want that accountability for the person. So you just have these different votes, these different statements. So anyway, I'm just going.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, I'll let you go. That's why.
Yeah. Open time.
I told you. Hey, look,
time.
Yeah, it's your Joe. Like I do have one. I think this is gonna. I've allowed you to do your energy, right? And there's a reason for that. 35 when you first ran?
No, I was, let's see.
36.
7 now, so 36, yeah.
Okay, 36. I was off by a year. I
Very good.
went to school in Georgia.
I know.
Okay, so 36 when you first ran. You're about to turn 38. You already mentioned that. I didn't let a cat out of a bag.
Yeah.
So I think that drops the minimum age in Capitol Hill. What I mean by that is you may, winning aside, you'd probably be the youngest one there. I don't know for sure.
No,
but what I mean by that is we have older elects.
Mm-hmm.
So with your energy and your stamina and what you're passionate about, what could people expect from you, and what are you bringing to Capitol Hill to represent District 1? Just in the passion and I can feel it sitting here.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
And I can feel the aura like when you're just around. But what can you convey through that camera to the people? What are you bringing? Like what do you have behind that?
I am bringing every gift that God has given me, and I am bringing that desire to glorify Him to the greatest extent possible by serving this particular district, Florida's 1st Congressional District, possible. God has given me a slew of experiences, of gifts, of talents, of energy, of zeal, and He put me through seminary. I was able to get a master's in systematic theology. I try to pray daily. I'm certainly no saint. I am striving for that daily along with my wife. But I have that kind of faith-filled background. I'm a fighter for faith and freedom, and that's something I've been doing. I was fighting for the faith while in seminary, while preparing for the priesthood. I was fighting for our freedom in the military, and then also in the military when being pressured to take the COVID shot and fighting against an unlawful order that was totally immoral. I have such military experience of going through some of the Army's most difficult schools, Ranger School, IBOLIC, Special Forces Qualification course, and having that training and that knowledge. And I have a love and a care for our service members. I have a love and a deep care and desire for this country. I love this country. It's amazing. It's my home. I'm so blessed to be in this area. So God providentially really brought me to this point. I'm running because first and foremost, I think it's God's will. And He's going to do with it what He wants. If He wants it to be successful, He will. And I hope many of you are inspired to support and help out, whether that's financially, volunteering, stop. But I'll use all of those experiences and His providence that brought me to this point with the connections I made on the Hill, talking to the president, just doing interviews, to really fight for Florida first, Florida's 1st Congressional District first. Its priority is to not be afraid, and I lost my job at great personal cost for what I believe was principle, what I believe was right. I'm going to take that same kind of energy and conviction up in DC to do the right thing, to not be bought out. I am not saying that that's not something that's possible. That's why I'm going to stay humble. I'm going to pray. I'm going to ask for you to pray for me along the way. But I will fight for the priorities that our country needs in order to survive. I think right now, yes, things are looking better under this Trump administration with Republicans in charge of the House and Senate. But I think we're just more slowly deteriorating and moving downhill rather than actually turning the ship around and going up. It's like we're still moving in the wrong direction, but slower with Republicans. When Democrats get in, they fill the gas tank up and they just step on the pedal. But we need to be turning this around. So I'll take that energy, conviction, my own experiences, to really fight for just huge priorities that are necessary for the district and for the country.
That's all. That's good. That's all you can do is be you.
Right. Yeah.
Interject you. That's great. Hey, I'll tell you what. While I do a little closing real quick, I'm gonna let you look at this.
Sure.
It's graded. Just go ahead and read that real quick. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and while he's reading that, there's a reason. Let him share that. I go ahead and do what I do all the time. No profit to me, but hey, I got a card up here. It's Lumen Wilson, and I'll tell you what. To Wilson Services up on 95A. Real good man from this area. Go see him. He'll fix your lawnmower, fix your weed eater, whatever you got. Probably your tractor too. Real good guy. He's got a beard down to about mid stomach, but ZZ Top. They didn't need him to play the drums or anything, so he'll fix your local equipment. That is, you know what that is?
Yeah. So this is the widow's mite that was added. When Jesus. In the Gospels, there were people who were offering their sacrifices, offering money to the temple, and you had the rich people coming in, and then there was a poor widow who just offered her mite. That was all she had. And Jesus said, of all the people who were here, who offered the most, who gave the most, and he's like, this one did, because they gave of their excess, she gave of her necessity, of everything that she had. And that's what Jesus Christ asked all of us to do. He asked us to give us everything that we have, mind, body, soul, spirit, to love him with our whole hearts, love our neighbors as ourselves. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to offer my might in Congress.
Yeah, well, this has been up here since it was given. This was given to me,
Yeah.
believe it or not. And this has been here since I started, and it's right next to my patriotic duck.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
Hey, so I just want to say thanks. And if is there any advice you could give to anyone watching that would help, and me too, that would help us in our walk through this wonderful world that we have?
I mean, God made man to praise, reverence, and serve God our Lord, and by this means to save his soul. That's the principle and foundation for why he made us. One of my favorite exercises is the Ignatian exercises. I've done 2 8-day silent retreats on that. So if you keep that end in mind of why you were made, and that everything made on the face of the earth is for that purpose, you accept it insofar as it helps you to achieve that end. You reject it insofar as it hurts you. So whether it's like, hey, watching too much TV is bad for me, don't do it. Or I should read scripture more, it helps, do it. So keep that end in mind, and all you do, maintain that kind of practice of having the constant presence of God, praying to him daily, at least in a secluded time, so you can carry him throughout your day. That's going to give you that kind of spiritual tool that will help just enliven the rest of your life. All this politics and stuff we've talked about, yes, it's important. Yes, it affects our lives. But where you go when you die, that's the most important. And having God with you in this life is a blessing unto itself, apart from any kind of riches that you can have. So put that spiritual aspect first, and that's the greatest thing that I can give you, is just accept God first, prioritize him in your life. Everything else is going to fall into pieces. Even if it's going the wrong way, he's going to use that for good.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate it. Where can the viewers find your information?
Sure.
You foot stomp the money, the financial, because
Yeah.
honestly, financial buy more signs, or to get your information out
Right.
into the mailers. Where can people find your website? Where can they find a number? Go ahead. Plug
I'll
it.
just give you one thing, frankmanforflorida.com. So that's Frankman, last name, F-O-R, and then Florida spelled out, F-L-O-R-I-D-A. frankmanforflorida.com. If you go there, it has my links to social media, it has links to interviews I've done in the past, and it has links for donation, and it also has a shop link. At the shop link, you can buy hats, yard signs, t-shirts, other things of that nature. So if you want to volunteer, you can message me on there, and we'll get you on the volunteer team. Grassroots, the energy is going, and if it's God's will, we're going to get this thing through. So it'd be a fun thing to be a part of, and don't do it for me, do it for this district, and do it for the future of the country.
Yeah, got it. So veterans, debt, term limits. You got the wants to act now, incredible energy. You got his master's in seminary, Army officer, Green Beret. I don't know what this man hasn't done, putting on capes and walking around as Green Lantern at Six Flags, chasing the villains.
Yeah, professional wrestling school too.
Professional wrestling school. So we have the superhero right here next to me. Check him out, frankmanforflorida.com. All right. So on behalf of Mr. John Frankman, I am Joshua Robertson, and since we've sat and talked the talk today, we challenge you to go out and walk the walk. All right. See you next time on Talk the Talk JR. See ya.
So yeah, thanks so much.